Welcome and thank you all for joining us for this episode of the Crexi Podcast, an insider's look at all things commercial real estate. In this show, we cover a broad range of topics that both cater to CRE newcomers and industry leaders alike. I'm your host, Jessica LaRusso, Director of Sales, and today we are thrilled to sit down with Craig Hall, founder and chairman of Hall Group based in Dallas, Texas. Before we dive in, a little bit about our guest. Craig Hall is an entrepreneur, New York Times bestselling author, vintner, and philanthropist. He formed Hall Group in 1968 at age 18 with $4,000 saved from small ventures that began at age 10. Today, Hall Group's diversified business interests include active commercial real estate ownership operations, development and management, structured financial lending, winemaking, and early-stage investments in promising startups. Hall is the author of 7 published books, including his most recent, Boom, Bridging the Opportunity Gap to Reignite Startups, which was published in May 2019. Craig, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Jessica. Great to be with you.
Great to meet you. So I know we just read through your bio, but we'd certainly all love to learn more about your career path and lessons that you learned along the way. So let's bring it way back to starting in your early years. How and when did you know you were meant to be an entrepreneur?
Well, actually, I had no idea when I first started that I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I don't even know if I could have possibly spelled the word. In fact, I'm sure I could. And I really didn't like business. And I grew up in Ann Arbor, Michigan, which was a pretty liberal, non-business sort of place. And there was a huge amount of publicity about tenants and landlords fighting University of Michigan students going on rent strikes and things. And I thought maybe I could show everybody that you could be a nice guy landlord. It was a very silly idea. And I actually was mayor for the day for one day when I was a senior in high school.
Oh,
and
wow.
I got elected and everything. And I realized I didn't solve the problems of housing. So I thought I'd do it when I started college. So I was in my senior year, I started looking for a rooming house to buy just to prove a point. And that's how I got started.
Wow. And that was senior year of high school, you were saying?
When I was senior in high school, I actually bought it
Wow.
when I started as a freshman in college. And over my first building, I bought with the $4,000 that I had saved. And then I despite the fact that everything went wrong, I did everything you could imagine, but it was fun. And so I decided to buy a second building, but I had no money. So I went around to fellow students and I said, if you give me $200, I'll make you a partner. And I found enough people who were silly enough to believe in me. And I raised $3,500 and bought a second building. That was the down payment. And
That's
I bought my
incredible.
second building. Yeah.
Wow. So you certainly started early. Was there any aspect of your upbringing that kind of positioned you for success or for this entrepreneurial spirit?
None whatsoever. My parents were horrified. They wondered what went wrong. My mother was an art teacher, and my father was kind of a middle manager sort of person, but very conservative. And I don't know what motivated me, except that I always I had epilepsy as a child, and I was a terrible student, and I had a lot of things that I couldn't do. So I figured I may as well end up in real estate because it's easy, right? Commercial real estate should be for everybody that can't do anything else. Just a theory.
Wow. Well, theory certainly worked for you, Craig. I mean, at that
That's
point
it.
in time, did you have a mentor or did that come a little bit later down the road? And how did that kind of shape you when you were early on in your career?
Um, I don't. I've had people that I've found interesting and looked up to.
Mhm.
Tell you a funny story about one of them in a minute, but if you want. But things just sort of organically happened over my first 17, 18 years, I raised about $1 billion in limited partnership equity and bought $4 billion of apartments. We owned 72,000 apartments in the early 1980s.
Wow.
But I will tell you, you want to hear a funny story about a mentor.
Yes,
So,
absolutely.
so this is a name from the past, but William Zeckendorf was a guy that built the where the United Nations is now, and he
Hmm.
built a lot of very famous developments. And he went broke, went bankrupt, and then he came back, and he wrote a book. And so I read the book, and one day I was so excited because I was in business then. I had moved my company from Ann Arbor, Michigan, to Southfield, Michigan, and down the street at a hotel, he was giving a speech. And I think because of his book or something. And for me to spend $20 to go to a luncheon speech was a lot of money. And
Hmm.
so, it was only because he was a hero to me. So I went, and all he talked about was what was important was art. And I thought, I've gotten ripped off on my $20. And, this guy's, he was 65 or something at the time and had kind of made a bit of a comeback. And I just wanted a few ideas that I could turn into money that afternoon. I just wanted,
Hmm.
all I wanted is, a little bit of, knowledge, give me a tip. And years later, I realized, partly because my mother was an art teacher. In other words, I use art in all of our commercial projects, and I'm a big art collector. And I remember he was right. Life isn't about just making money. It's about having a soul, and it's about enjoying each day. And it's about, commercial real estate's great, but it's about integrating that with other things. So that was sort of a mentor.
When did that click for you? When did you remember that he brought that up? I mean, later down, you're an art collector, it's in all
Yeah,
of your building. Was there kind of that aha moment at some point? That's a
there
really
was.
fascinating story.
Yeah, there was. I don't remember exactly when, but it wasn't like, it might have been decades later. I thought, wow, I remember this. I think it was 1971 when this occurred. It's a long time ago, and years later, I thought, wow, that brought it full circle.
I love that story. Thank you
Yeah,
so much for sharing that with
sure.
our listeners. So you mentioned something a little bit earlier, right? Your first building, your first few buildings, you said everything went wrong, right? So what were
Everything.
some of those actual examples or like favorite mistakes that you had that really became invaluable for you moving forward? Maybe you didn't recognize it was an opportunity at the time, but
Well, I made so many mistakes, but I remember I didn't do as much due diligence as I should have, and the seller told me uh, that there was no lease on it was a rooming house, and the top uh, two floors were 8 rooms,
mhm,
and the bottom floor and basement was a large apartment. And he said that none of the units had a lease. Well, it turned out that the um, people on the first floor and basement claimed they had a verbal lease for a certain period of time anyway. Then they had evidence for it, and uh, I, that cost me a lot of money in those days. The difference between $70 a month they were paying and $450 a month that it was worth.
mhm.
I remember the numbers, and so that was just one of many mistakes. But buying a rooming house that has international students who cook exotic foods in the one kitchen, and there's a one common bathroom and one common kitchen, and my job was to clean it every day. It was,
Wow.
yeah, it was an experience. But anyway,
That's great. So, okay, for somebody that's listening to us, right? They have not invested in commercial property. They're looking to make their first purchase just like you were many years ago. So maybe like one or two pitfalls you would recommend to avoid or things that they can do to arm themselves from kind of limiting their exposure?
well, I think uh, let me put it in a more positive way. I think there are things that you can do that can make money, and and they tend to be buying a property that you can fix up and change, and something you can improve the ability to charge more rent because you make a difference. Sometimes, historically throughout my career, I think there are lots of opportunities for properties like that. And so on a positive side, I'd say that. On the negative side, do your homework, be careful, and that'll help you avoid some of those pitfalls.
Thank you. Appreciate that. So let's kind of move into the modern day now, right?
Sure.
I'd really love to dive more into your commercial real estate philosophies and really how you built Hall Group. So, can you explain some of those tried and true investment or development strategies that have really guided your moves at the Hall Group?
Yeah, uh, I have to maybe do a little history for that. We were, as I mentioned earlier, a large, relatively at the time, we were one of the two largest in the world, actually, owners of apartments. And we went through the 1980s, which is a subject that could take hours to talk about, but I'm happy to talk
Hmm.
about if you want any of it. But in the 1980s were a depression for commercial real estate, nothing like today's downturn. Also happy to talk about that. Um, it, this is mild compared to the 80s. The 2008-9 financial crisis is mild compared to the 80s for commercial real estate. So we went through a horrible downturn, and because I did what most real estate people do, and I had other people's money,
Hmm.
um, I did. I worked my. I worked as hard as possible to protect people, and people were really good to me in the sense of, I have. I got so many nice letters from my investors, but at the same time, I still lost money for people, and I
Hmm.
totally lost all my money. I went completely broke. And when I kind of got out of that whole time, I no longer wanted to raise other people's money. And so I had what I had left. When I say I was completely broke, that is sort of true and sort of not true. Uh, I still had enough assets that I made a small comeback. And so from the early 1990s until recently, we basically have used our own money. And so we're smaller. We have not tiny, but we have a few $1 billion of assets. But we did it one by one, and by building up and by doing, initially what we did was bought things nobody else would buy, and fixed them up, office buildings and other things.
Hmm.
And then we started developing and building, and we have uh, things that we've been, uh, large projects. We're working on a project that's going to be 10 million square feet when it's done in Frisco, Texas. And then we also have a we have a lending business. We hope to do 700-800 million dollars of loans this year. We have a lot of demand right now because most lenders are closing down, and they're scared. And
Hmm.
I think it's a good time to build right now. And I think that interest rates are going to come back down, not maybe to zero, but um, so we are making loans, and we are helping entrepreneurs build.
That's incredible. So, really have kind of shifted so many different businesses and companies that you have now, but it sounds like more recently the development and the lending side has been the majority of your focus.
Yeah, we started the lending business in 1995, but I'd say over the last 5 years, we've really increased the lending business. And the development business, similarly, I kind of started maybe in the mid 1990s, but and of course, we are also in the wine business. We have a number of vineyards and wineries, but so we're very focused, and I don't want to not be focused. I want to stick to our knitting, not worried about being the biggest, just worrying about uh, making money and making a difference. Not
Hmm.
not necessarily in that order. Making a difference first, but when I say making money, that goes to talking about times like now. It's not so much long run make money. It's about, if you don't watch the cash and the cash flow, you can really be out of business quickly. In times like today, it's all about staying liquid enough and making sure you are on top of where you're going cash flow wise, and making sure that you plan for difficult times. So we do that.
That's really great topic, kind of bringing up
Yeah.
what's going on in the world right now, right? A lot of people are um, hesitant of what's happening with the markets, right? How would you advise, say, someone earlier stage or mid stage in their business to um, do kind of what you said, right? Make sure that they are kind of bracing for a downturn if necessary, and they're staying cash flow positive. Or there are some things that have really helped you throughout the years.
I think that the most important thing that we do is we know what our liquidity is every day.
Hmm.
Literally, we have that information. We know monthly what our cash flow. We have a very, very complicated number of different entities and lots of ins and outs. So right now we have $650 million of construction going on. We're building a large hotel in Palm Springs, Hyatt Thompson, for our own account, all our money. And, we have just, substantial outflows on each of those developments, but we stay on top of it. We know how much it's going to be next month, the month after, and we adjust, all the time so that we're not going to be surprised. We planned for interest rates to go up. Frankly, they've gone up faster than I would have expected. I think it's dangerous how fast they've gone up. But in general, for somebody in business today, I would say it's time to be cautious and time to be careful. And there will be lots of opportunities, but they're not good opportunities if you're broke. So you gotta make sure that you have money to take advantage of, and or
Thank you.
credibility to get money. Yeah, credibility is
Yeah.
also a big deal. I mean, being able to make sure that you're taking care of your lenders and make sure that you're credible as a person and as a company is everything in a time like now.
Thanks, Greg. That's amazing. I wasn't aware that the Hyatt Thompson in Palm Springs was here. I just drove by that a couple of
Oh,
weekends
did
ago. It's going
you
to be a
really?
beautiful property. Yeah,
Oh,
absolutely.
I was there
Everyone needs
last.
to go take a look,
Yeah,
check it out when it's
yeah.
open.
I was there last Friday walking the construction, and um, yeah, it's a difficult market to build in because the workers don't live in Palm Springs, so they drive from a long way. But I look every day. I get a report on how many people are working in our Palm Springs hotel. We had 92 people there today, and I'm trying to get it
Wow.
over 100 next week. So yeah, that's great. You were just there.
That's incredible. Yeah, you have right in the heart of Palm Springs. I can't wait for it to open. Side note,
Two.
I got married at a Thompson hotel in Cabo, so I'm a
Oh,
big
oh, I
fan of
know.
Thompson hotels.
I know that. I know that hotel. It's a great hotel, and
Yeah.
congratulations. Yeah,
Oh, amazing.
yeah. So we're going to be 2 square blocks of downtown Palm Springs. Yeah.
Incredible. So you mentioned people, right? You have, while you're keeping an eye on all of your liquidity, what's coming in, what's going out every day. Obviously, people, it's a very important part of your companies, right? So what would you say sets the Hall Group apart from a people perspective?
I have to say, from my perspective, good luck. I have been so lucky to work with a really nice, fun um, group that has shared values. We want to make a difference. We want to help other people. We're not in it for short term anything. We're in it for the long haul, and for better. And I'm finding out now a little bit for worse. And I'll explain myself. But uh, I have so many people who've been here 35, 40, 45 years, which is,
Wow.
yeah, it sounds
It's
great, and it is
incredible.
great. It's great, except a guy came in 2 years ago to me and his boss, and he said, "I need to talk to the two of you." And this was January, and he said, "I'm here to give my notice." And I said, "Mike, what are you talking about? You came out of Ohio State, and a University of Michigan guy took you in and gave you a job, and that was only 37, 30 years ago, and now you're giving me notice. Where could you possibly go?" And he said, "Well, I'm giving you 1 year notice, and I'm retiring." I mean, he was like anyway, I got him to stay on as vice chairman in the lending business. He was the head of our lending company. And now he started a new trend. I've got 9 people now who've given between 1 year and 18 months notice.
I've
So
never heard of that ever.
it's insane. But now they think they're being nice to me, but now I wake up in the middle of the night thinking, what am I going to do when so and so leaves? What am I, if they just not told me, they could have been decent. Just give me the 2 weeks like everybody else. And
Right.
yeah, I know, it's terrible.
Well, that clearly speaks to you that they want to make sure that you're covered a year plus in advance.
I don't know, but I'm a very lucky person. We have a really great group of people here.
That's incredible. Well, you have such a wide variety of businesses, right? Commercial real estate, you have wineries, right? Can you talk to some of our listeners about some of the challenges and benefits of, having a united brand across many different types of businesses and industries? How do you tie it all together?
Well, we used to actually be more diversified. We were in the software business, and I sold our software businesses in 2008 in order to stay alive financially. And we've done a lot of other things. I think being more focused is a better thing. The wine business really came about because of my wife. She grew up in the Bay Area, and her father had a vineyard, which is just a small farming vineyard. And then she started making wine before she met me. And truthfully, I thought rosé was made by you put white and red wine together and you mix them up. But I've learned it's different. It's different.
Yes.
And then wine became kind of a challenge to me because it does have a lot of real estate aspects. It also has farming, which is kind of fun. And it has manufacturing, and it has marketing, and it has brand things, which is something that was new. And so we're probably in it for the long haul. It's a good fun thing, but it does actually. We use the wine business in a lot of our. We give wine away in the happy hours at our office, and we have fun with it.
That's great. Where are your vineyards?
Well, we're all over Napa Valley, Sonoma, into Oregon, but we're Napa centric. That's our largest area.
I love that. One thing you mentioned earlier, and I think this is probably very top of mind, so I just want to make sure we get a little more of your guidance on this. Given your company's legacy, and you mentioned the '80s, right? 08, 09, how many market cycles you've had to navigate. Right now, what are some key things for developers and serious stakeholders that you think that they should maybe keep an eye out for, not be too worried about, and remember as, the market is shifting pretty rapidly today?
Well, let me first of all say, I think in general, this is not nearly as severe as 2000, or I'm sorry, as the 1980s. But what the good news is, we don't have a supply problem. We had a supply problem in the 1980s. We had overbuilt for various reasons. Today, our problem is a huge amount of assets, about $1.5 trillion in the next 3 years of loans will come due. And these were loans, and many of them that were made when interest rates were near zero. So they will adjust to rates that the vast majority of those will not be able to pay. So we're going to have a situation of borrowers and lenders having economics turned upside down because of the rapid rise in interest rates. In addition, anyone who had floating debt, and we certainly have some, is going to be hurt right now. The first thing to do is be realistic and don't put your head in the sand. A lot of people sort of just put their head in the sand, spend whatever cash they have until they don't have money, and then realize, the problem's still there. So you have to analyze on a realistic basis how you can handle what you got. And, every situation is different. On the broad view, the place that I think is dramatically changed in the longer term, it's kind of like a 10-year train wreck, is older office buildings. I think they were going to be hurt anyway. So like in 2015, we had what was an office park. And in
Hmm.
2015, I realized that offices and office parks were going to become passe, and that what I needed to do was convert to a mixed use development. And so literally we spent 2 or 3 years redoing our master plan. We actually tore down 2 buildings, and we're doing all kinds of things. That changes it. A
Hmm.
new office building that has great amenities will do well today. Uh, Obviously, depends on location, but particularly some older urban locations, big cities, New York, San Francisco, Chicago,
Hmm.
LA, tough place to be in. And so, you have to be careful on. There are some buildings that, no matter how low the price is, it is not a bargain.
Right.
So, you have to be careful when you're looking for opportunities to not just buy by the pound. You have to also really understand the future of the asset.
So you see a lot of redevelopment in the future for those types of office parks.
Yes and no. I think it's kind of like malls. Malls were great until all of a sudden they weren't great, and to redevelop them was very expensive and difficult.
Hmm.
Office buildings, uh, years ago, my wife and I redeveloped an office building in Dallas called the Kirby Building, right downtown on Main Street. Glad we did it. It was a lot of fun. It was awfully painful. It was awfully complicated and very expensive, and the economics were really tough. That hasn't changed. It's a hard thing. Some buildings will convert to residential.
Hmm.
Many just don't have the right floor plates, don't have the right ceiling heights, don't have the right windows. It's it's a great question mark. What happens to
Hmm.
so much stock of older office buildings?
That kind of takes me right into my segues of what's next for the Hall Group, right? You have a diverse portfolio, hotels, wineries. We mentioned you're working on, the Thompson and Palm Springs. What do you feel is next?
Well, we are continuing to really lean into our lending business. I'd like to really grow
Hmm.
that. It's a we enjoy. We do mostly construction loans, but we're also doing bridge loans right now. So we can't solve anybody's all their problems, but if somebody has some capital and they need an aggressive lender that's willing to go a lot more than a banks would, that's where we come in. But so that business we're leaning in on, and then developments that are large and have exciting opportunities to really help make a difference in the community. For instance, in Frisco, we're building
Hmm.
at 3 million square feet, and ultimately it'll be 10 million square feet. So it's another 15, 20 years of development. And we'll see, maybe we'll do 2 or 3 more of those. I
Yeah.
like a 30-year business plan. It's good when you're right.
I love that. I mean, you were one of the first developers to take a chance on Frisco, right? I mean, when you started developing there, it was mostly farmland. What made you bullish on Frisco?
Um, you know, in Frisco is in the north part of Dallas, and Dallas is a city that has grown north. When we bought in Frisco, to get to our first office building, you had to have either a helicopter or a Jeep with really good suspension, because it was all dirt roads that had big potholes.
Oh,
Uh,
wow.
right now, there's a tollway that goes
Off-roading.
right by us. Yeah, you had to be off-roading. And when we opened it, we were 100% vacant, and it was a 100,000 square foot small building. And 6 months later, we were 100% full. So I don't know. Somehow you build it and they came.
Wow.
Yeah, so it changed. But yeah, we were the first doing that in Frisco.
That's incredible. Well, kind of on that topic, can you tell everyone a little bit about Hall Park? This is your thriving 160 plus
Yeah.
acre campus. We'd love to hear a little bit more about it and what's in store.
Well, we started out with uh, building one office building. Then we built 17 office buildings. We had about 2,700,000 square feet. I tore down 2 office buildings, redesigned it. We're building a lot of retail right now. We've got a $500 million of construction right now in that
Wow.
property. We're building a autograph hotel, Marriott autograph hotel called Hall Park Hotel. We're building a high-rise high-end apartment building. And then we have another office building going up, very modern, has balconies so people can get fresh air, has a huge amenity deck, great fitness, lots of meeting rooms. And we're building in the center of all of it a park that we've actually given to the city. We're building it, we're giving it to the city. We expect we'll have over 1 million people a year in the park. It'll be for the public. We have
That's
a children's
incredible.
park, a dog park. We have it's a lot of fun to do, and then we're working with the city, hoping to build a performing arts center. So we're really building an arts district for Frisco.
That's amazing. The
Fun.
art's coming back in.
Absolutely, it
There
sure
it
is.
is.
Yep.
I love that. So what are you seeing in terms of, commercial real estate? Are there any trends that you're betting on, right? We know how you feel about kind of the class B, class C offices, right? But any that you think are going to be trending really well here in the near future, or any markets, right?
I think interestingly, in the right markets, retail seems to be coming back. Bricks and mortar
Mhm.
retail, strip centers seem to be doing well. I think hotels are coming back strong. They've been
Mhm.
under capitalized. They've been sort of the one that hasn't been getting the money the last few years. We're very bullish on hotels. Our lending group really specializes in hotels. We fortunately did not do any office buildings at the wrong time, so we're good there. Right now, we're doing a lot of apartments. I think residentially, we still have a huge deficit of houses and housing in the
Mhm.
United States, about 5 million uh, fewer homes than we need, and the homes being either apartments or separate single family. So I think there's opportunities in a lot of those areas.
How about some markets? Is there anywhere you have your eye on?
I don't know that I'm an expert in all the markets, but we are really. Um, I'm frustrated by California, but we still do some lending there. Um, a lot of people are going to shoot me for that comment, but I like my wife. But
No,
anyway,
that's okay.
thanks a lot. Don't get me in trouble here. Um, I we love Texas. I mean, there's
Mhm.
a lot of great markets, especially I think markets like Austin that have had a lot of tech stuff are probably cooling a little bit right now because
Mhm.
the pandemic, post pandemic, we've seen the tech businesses slow down, and that'll slow some of the demand. But Dallas, Houston, San Antonio, great markets. Um, but there's a lot of great markets in the country. Florida's great, a lot of places.
Thank you. No, super helpful for those looking to make their next investment or purchase. And given your specialized background and expertise, I'm sure some of our listeners would be curious about a few of your answers to a few rapid fire questions or advice questions. Is that okay if we
You
throw a
bet.
few your way?
Yeah.
Great. Okay. So if you were given $50 million today and you had to invest it immediately, what would be your go to asset and location, and why?
I think I would look for hotels, uh,
Hmm.
and I'd look for select service hotels because they make the most money. Food and beverage always complicates things. And I think there are a lot of good markets for that. Again, same markets I said earlier.
Okay. Great. Favorite tool or software that you use on the job?
Ooh, well, having a hard hat when you're walking around in a construction site is a favorite
That's
tool.
that's
Uh,
very
hmm,
necessary.
that's very necessary. Yeah, no, I'm technologically challenged, so I wouldn't have a good software answer. I wouldn't when we were in the software business, everybody always thought that was a strange thing because I didn't understand software, but it
That's
was it
okay.
was it
No,
was it was easy to
absolutely.
be.
How about your team? I mean, you have so much cash flow in and out liquidity, right? Are there certain kind of tools that, some of your team is using day to day to manage that?
We developed our own uh, software to manage cash flow, and we're constantly refining it and improving it. I think there are a lot of standard things that can be bought
Mhm.
that are helpful.
Great. What do you like to do for fun?
Well, what do I admit here? I do have a lot of toys, and I don't get on them very often, but um, I have. A, I work most of the time, and but I do have some vacation spots that I enjoy that I can work in a nicer climate from time to time and other
Yes,
places.
absolutely.
My idea of golf is we belong to one place that you can play golf barefoot, and there's a
Oh, that's fun.
place where you get alcohol in the fourth hole, and that's included. Alcohol in the 10th hole, and that's included. Food, and you can play 2 or 3 holes. You don't have to play 9 or 18. So that's kind of fun.
Sounds like my kind of game.
Yeah, yeah. But I've never made
Nice.
it. Yeah, 5 or 6 holes is a lot of. That's a long day of golf for me.
Yep, I totally agree with you there, Craig. And drink wine. Are you rosé? Is that your
No, no,
are
no.
you
I'm primarily red wine, but uh, we actually have pretty full service drinkers. We make, for instance, 22 different Cabernets. So
wow.
what I've learned over time from the wine world is how much different the terroir and the actual vineyard makes, and
Mhm.
it's very similar to real estate. You have a hard corner for the best retail out of four corners. In vineyards, it's not. It's the location and the property and the climate, and that varies right across the street. One's great and one's pretty okay. And so we make wines that represent those geographic properties, and it's great fun to taste them next to each other. And you really, over time, I've gotten to really love wine, to love quality wine. The negative is
Uh,
quality tends to be more expensive. So as a consumer, when you get to where you have really great taste, it's an expensive hobby. But we like that as a winery. It's a wine cellar.
Absolutely. Where can we find your wine? Where do you
Well,
where you
we have 3 different brands. Hall
Mhm.
wines, which tends to be Cabernet, Sauvignon Blanc, kind of Bordeaux varietals, as they say. And then Walt, which is Walt, W-A-L-T. It's my wife's maiden name. And those are Chardonnay and Pinot Noirs. And then Baca, which is a Zinfandel and other kind of smaller varietals. They should be in a lot of stores all over the country, and in a lot of restaurants. So try them out.
Great, thank you. We'll definitely keep an eye out for those. So, as we wrap up here, are there any parting words that you'd love to share with our audience, either newcomers or the seasoned commercial real estate pros out there?
Just that, and I'm actually sharing this with myself as I'm saying it. Um, you should have fun all the time as best you can. There are times when things are very stressful, and there are times when business is more fun than others. But at the end of the day, if it isn't fun, don't do it. And
Mhm.
I guess that's why I'm still doing a lot of things, because I I'm a lucky person and I enjoy it. And I wish I really love to encourage entrepreneurship. I think starting something and working with people you get along with and enjoy is just a real good 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 luck blessing in life.
That's fantastic advice. Always having fun. Thank you, Craig. So we really appreciate you joining us and sharing your insights. We know you're very busy, so we appreciate you taking the time to sit down with us today. Where can people find you online if they want to get in touch?
I have a very simple email address, chall@hallgroup.com.
Great. Excellent.
Thank you.
And
Thank you, Jessica. You're a great interviewer.
oh, thank you. I've really enjoyed meeting you today. I'm definitely going to be going out there and looking for that wine. I'm a wine lover myself. So thanks
Great.
for your time, Craig. And thank you for
Pleasure.
everyone that tuned in today. If you enjoyed this episode, do not miss out on the next one. Visit go.crexi.com/podcast and sign up to get the very next episode delivered straight to your inbox. And of course, you can also subscribe to the Crexi Podcast on your favorite podcast app and check out our YouTube channel for video recordings of each episode. Take care, stay safe, and be sure to tune in next time.